Hello there guys, Aaron Chandler here for Forever Football DRFC, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel, and we're back here with an interview with one of the commentators for tonight's game against Portsmouth at the Keepmoat Stadium. Of course, Andy Butler's first game as interim manager. It is the one and only Ian Danter from Talksport 2. Ian, thank you very much for agreeing to do this with me. Really appreciate it, mate.
That's all right, no worries. Danter, though, D-A-N-T-E-R.
Yeah,
Danter is one of the many misspellings I've had in the post over the years.
Yeah, sorry about that. Ian Danter, lovely to have you on the show. First question really is it really a surprise? Because I think Doncaster Rovers fans have been very angry about this transition from Doncaster to Sheffield Wednesday. However, you know, with no wins in 5, 4 defeats in the last 5, with the draw at Hull as well, on top of that, it was needed to be a change. I think the board have been very ruthless with this decision.
Well, I think it's a surprise in the sense that with Neil Thompson having had temporary charge at Sheffield Wednesday for 11, 12 games, there were no real names linked other than the Paul Cook link, which was there kind of before Thompson got caretaker charge, and kind of nothing really happened with it. So Darren's name was never really linked in you know, by football writers, those in the know, particularly in your patch. So when it happened, that's the element of surprise. I don't think it's a surprise that Darren has been headhunted by a side from a higher division, because I think, was that not always the perception about getting somebody who should never have been let go by West Bromwich Albion, coming to Doncaster Rovers, stabilising the club, keeping them in the top 6 during the course of this season, that clubs wouldn't come knocking, that wouldn't make inquiries as to his availability. If you're a side that's consistently in the top 6 in a division that's as competitive as that, and you've already proved that you have got a good win percentage at a higher level, you'd have to be spectacularly naive to think that nobody's ever going to come in for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree about Darren Moore, and I think that, I was one of the fans that probably said he deserved to have been headhunted, and I wish good luck to him, but I think a lot of fans are very angry about that, and we spoke. We know Andy Butler's going to be taking interim charge to the end of the season and maybe getting it permanently, next season. Would you agree if they went down that route, or would you want to see an experienced manager come in and maybe Butler working the coaching staff? Because we know he's given up the Bells management. We know he's given up, being a player for now.
First things first, I understand why fans are angry, regardless of Darren's decision, whether they agree with it or not, because the Grant McCann thing hasn't been that long ago in happening, has it? So because that's fresh in the memory, I guess that hasn't helped this instance along, because the Doncaster fans felt that Grant left them in the lurch. So you've got 2 instances in a very short space of time where, Donny fans feel aggrieved. Clearly with regard to Andy, when Darren was unavailable due to COVID issues and Andy stepped in earlier in the season, there appeared to be absolutely no problem at all. In fact, the players seemed to warm to what he was trying to do in extremis whilst Darren wasn't around. It's always difficult for a guy like Andy, who's been a player, obviously born in Doncaster, knows the town, everything, so linked with that club, having had a number of spells, to suddenly go from being a player and being one of the lads to having to have that little buffer, that little space between him and the squad he's working with. But if that short spell he had in interim charge during COVID is anything to go by, then Doncaster fans should at least feel a little bit more assured that they've got somebody there who's got it's a good continuity appointment, as we're 2/3 of the way through the season, rather than just getting somebody from outside in who doesn't know the players, doesn't know the squad the way Andy does.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it is a good continuity appointment. But let's go on the basis of he's taking it to the end of the season, but whether we go up or not, next season we're bringing in a new manager. I've seen the reaction on social media. A lot of people want Danny Cowley, from former Lincoln City and Huddersfield manager. I've seen other fans message me and tweet me about other appointments, people looking at There's some Chelsea coaches, Jody Morris, who's very much a youth coach, and there's Anthony Barry, who's a set-piece and defensive coach. There's a Brighton fan that messaged me and said, Derby County's number 2, a former Brighton player, Liam Rosenwald, could be a good one for the number 1, but he'd be a bit of a gamble. And I've seen a lot of fans joking around saying, I'd take Frank Lampard if we had the chance, or someone like Eddie Howe. But realistically, I mean, looking at the odds last season when a couple of years ago when Grant McCann left, the odds sort of saw Roy Keane as an early favourite with the likes of Mark Cooper, who's at Forest Green, Michael Appleton, who's Lincoln City's manager, linked with the Bristol City job a while back. So, there was a lot of links from when Grant McCann left coming back a little bit, and some people say maybe Roy Keane, maybe not, because of what can he do in defeats? He's a good man manager, but what can he do, especially with the punditry he's doing now? So, who would you see as a potential candidate next season? Would you go with the favourite of Danny Cowley, or would there be candidates like the Roy Keanes or one of the Chelsea coaches, or breaking the bank for someone like a Frank Lampard to come in and take this club further than it's ever been before?
Ego would dictate, in my opinion, that somebody like Frank Lampard or Eddie Howe would not go anywhere near a League One club, regardless of whether it's Doncaster, Peterborough, Sunderland. Well, maybe even someone like Sunderland they might balk at, even though it's got that reputation and a 40,000-seater stadium. So let's rule those out. Danny Cowley has been linked with an awful lot of positions since stepping aside at Lincoln. Clearly, he's got a pedigree at lower league level, having got Lincoln into the Football League, out of the conference, and got them to progress. A job that Michael Appleton's continued very, very well. That's quite clear. So I don't think Donny fans should be at all worried if Danny got the nod. I'm working with Neil Redfern tonight. He's my co-commentator. Why not Neil? A guy that implicitly understands Doncaster, having just like Andy worked with the Bells, and to my mind did an excellent job as interim Leeds manager when all around him at Ellen Road was total chaos. And he's doing a very good job now in the Women's Championship with Sheffield United. So he's still local, why not look at Neil, for example? Coaches from other Premier League clubs, whether it be Jody Morris, Liam Rosenior, more of a gamble. But that's not to say that they wouldn't work, but that's up to the Donny board and how much of a calculated risk they're prepared to take. That Doncaster, from the outside looking in, from my perspective, from other people's perspective, looking at Doncaster this season, really consistent. Darren's done such a good job. You've lost your best player. You've sold your best player, arguably the best central midfielder in League One. There might be others up there who are almost as good as Ben, but I don't know. He's been really consistent over a long period of time and probably earned his move, So you've got a good tight-knit squad. I think you need to be in the playoffs. I think having been in the top 6 for so long, to not be in the playoffs at the end of the season, given where you are now and where you've been, would be a bit of a letdown, I'm sure, for all of you. There's always one team that seems to come with a wet sail, isn't there, and try and sneak the final spot in the playoffs. And despite your bad form lately, you're still hanging on to 6th, but you've got Accrington, you've got Ipswich, who've got the potential to clamber over you. Even Blackpool, who suddenly, found some form. That's the sort of team you've got to watch out for. But with a manager like Andy, he could take you forward equally. He could, keep you in the top 6. Whether you succeed or fail in the playoffs, if you get there, he may show enough in these remaining games, plus the playoff lottery, that the Donny board thinks, all right, we'll give you a 1-year rolling contract or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you mentioned Neil Redfern. I think a couple of fans did look at Neil Redfern and say he'd be a good shout. And that leads me on to my final point, really. And that is looking back over Doncaster legend and maybe bringing... There's a couple of names that people would say, well, hang on a minute, I'd like to see a former Donny manager come back in and see what he does in the modern day. Like, there was two names that were being mentioned specifically, Sean O'Driscoll and Dave Penny. And I look at Andy Butler, if he does well, as like another Dave Penny, where it's like a player to manager and he could do a wonderful job. But would Doncaster maybe take the risk next season and bring back Dave Penny or bring back Sean O'Driscoll? And could it be a risk? Could they bring back the glory days that they brought to the club back when they were the manager?
Well, Sean O'Driscoll is a coach I've admired for a very, very long time. And I can remember vividly a game where Doncaster, under his stewardship, went to Derby in the Championship. I think they only won 2-0, but they completely controlled the game. And I seem to remember Sean made 2 or 3 tactical changes during the course of the 90 minutes. And the players understood every single switch, whether it was going from a 4 at the back to a 3 at the back. Forgive me for not being able to remember the specifics, but I remember in my updates, I was saying these players are smart and they're being coached smartly, because that Sean O'Driscoll has clearly given them their identifiable roles, but they've got an ability to switch and to change. And I think that was the mark of excellent coaching. And at the time, I think my club, Birmingham, were looking for a coach, and I said, Sean O'Driscoll, get him in. That's a long time ago now. I'm not sure whether Sean has the same hunger he might have had back then. And over the years, he's hated dealing with us in the media. He doesn't like doing that side of the job at all. And fair play to him for that. There are some guys that just don't like talking to journalists or dealing with it. They can do without it. I think Sean is one of those that can definitely do without that side. So I think that might work against him, coming back. But he was a brilliant coach for you, and I thought he certainly understood what was required. But I wouldn't hang your hat on him coming back, just because I think, as a hunch, and this is only a hunch, personally, I think he wouldn't really entertain coming back to that sort of profile of management. And getting stuck in again. He'd love to get stuck in on the coaching ground with anybody, I'm sure, and work with players. Maybe he could work with a new manager. Let's say Andy gets the position permanently. What better person to have as part of your coaching setup than somebody as tactically astute as Sean O'Driscoll?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Ian Danter, thank you very, very much for doing this interview. It really means a lot, and it was great to sort of hear your thoughts on the next managerial situation and what could happen at the club, because I think the club's very exciting. So thank you very much for that.
No problem at all.
And thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be doing loads of stuff over the next few weeks. We've got the Portsmouth game coming up tonight, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you stay tuned on Talksport 2 as well, where you want to hear the game. If you can't watch the match, you can listen to it on Talksport 2 as well. And for now, guys, my name is Darren Chandler from Forever Football, DRFC. Keep living the Rovers life, and that, my friends, is full time. Rovers till I die. Let's get 3 points. Rovers till